Hi, I'm Lisa Martinez, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law's dream getaway turned into a complete disaster. Sometimes, the people you underestimate aren't as powerless as you think. I first met David Anderson at the coffee shop where I worked while pursuing my master's in business. Unlike the other affluent patrons, he was kind, humble, and never made me feel inferior for being the one serving coffee. When we fell in love, I believed I'd found my happy ending. I had no idea that his mother, Elanor, would dedicate herself to tearing us apart. Elanor Anderson wasn't just wealthy, she was old money elite, the kind who thought a private jet was standard and anything less was beneath her. From the very beginning, she made it clear that a barista wasn't welcome in the Anderson family. "Darling," she'd say to David, often with me right there, "remember the Ross girl? Back from Paris, still single, quite the match for someone like you." But David stood firm, and we married in a modest ceremony that Elanor called laughably quaint. For years, I endured her constant jabs. At every family gathering, she found ways to remind me of my humble beginnings. "Oh, Lisa, that dress is from a department store? How charming that you used to serve coffee. Must be nice to not have to work anymore." What she didn't know was that while I was making lattes and studying, I had quietly invested in cryptocurrency from its early days. Those investments had grown into a fortune that could rival even the Andersons. Yet I lived simply, reinvesting my profits, and only David knew about my financial success. He respected my wish for discretion. Tensions peaked during the planning of the annual Anderson family vacation. Every year, Elanor hosted a lavish trip for the extended family, a showcase of wealth and control. This year's dinner was at her mansion. In the grand dining room, she unveiled her latest scheme. "I've arranged something extraordinary," she announced, radiating self-importance. "We've booked the entire Royal Pearl Island resort for 2 weeks, private beaches, personal chefs, helicopter tours, only the finest for the Andersons." The family reacted with awe. Royal Pearl was one of the most exclusive private islands in the Maldives, usually booked years in advance. Then her gaze landed on me, dripping with condescension. "About the guest list. Lisa, my dear, you understand that this vacation requires a certain refinement. Perhaps it's best you sit this one out. These luxury resorts can be quite overwhelming for someone of your background." David immediately objected. "Mother, if Lisa isn't coming, I'm not going either." Elanor stiffened. "Nonsense, David. The whole family will be there. Your cousins are flying in from Europe. You can't skip it just because your wife isn't used to luxury." His sister Charlotte chimed in. "She's right, David. Lisa would feel out of place. Remember last summer at the yacht club?" I gently touched David's arm. "It's fine," I whispered. "You should go with your family." I could see Eleanor's smirk. Eleanor's triumphant smile told me she thought she'd won. What she didn't realize was that I had my own plans quietly set in motion. 6 months earlier, when I overheard her boasting about booking Royal Pearl Island, I'd quietly made a few discreet calls. The resort, struggling due to the economic downturn, had an owner eager to sell, and I'd taken the opportunity. Using a series of shell companies, I had acquired not only the Royal Pearl Resort but the entire island. The previous management remained in place, completely unaware that the day of reckoning was coming. The next morning, as the Andersons boarded their private jet to the Maldives, I made another call. Everything was ready. Elanor had no clue that her perfect vacation would soon become a humbling lesson in underestimating people. From my home office, I watched the resort's security feeds on my laptop, smiling at the thought of their arrival. In a few hours, they'd step into paradise, only to realize paradise now belonged to the barista they'd dismissed. I dialed the resort manager. Phase 2 of my plan was about to begin. By late afternoon, the Andersons arrived at Royal Pearl Island. Elanor led the family across the sun-drenched beaches toward the villas, already envisioning the envy she'd provoke on social media. "Welcome to Royal Pearl Island," the resort manager, James, said with a knowing grin. "We've been expecting you." Eleanor's smile widened. "Everything looks perfect. I trust the presidential villa is ready for me. James glanced at his tablet. Well, there's been a slight adjustment. The presidential villa is currently occupied by the owner. Eleanor's carefully maintained composure faltered. Impossible. I booked the entire island. There should be no other guests. The owner isn't a guest, Mrs. Anderson, James said calmly. They own the property and have final say over all accommodations. Who is this owner? I demand to see them immediately. Eleanor's voice rose, attracting the attention of the rest of the family. Of course, James replied politely. Please follow me to the main pavilion. The owner has left instructions for your arrival. The family was led to an elegant open-air pavilion overlooking the ocean. On a large screen, a video began to play. My face appeared, and I watched through the security feeds as Eleanor's jaw dropped. Hello, Anderson family, my recorded voice said cheerfully. Welcome to my island. That's right, I own Royal Pearl Island Resort, along with several other luxury properties around the world. The room fell silent, broken only by Eleanor's shocked gasp. David stifled a grin, having anticipated this moment. While you were busy looking down on me for being a barista, I continued on screen, I was quietly building my own empire. The coffee girl you dismissed? She now surpasses the entire Anderson fortune. Eleanor sank into a chair, her designer bag clattering to the floor. Charlotte's face turned an interesting shade of green. Now, regarding accommodations, I went on. Eleanor, you'll be staying in our economy villa. Modest, but sufficient to remind you that not everyone deserves the presidential suite. The rest of the family may choose from our standard rooms. This is outrageous. Eleanor shrieked. I paid for the presidential villa. Your deposit has been refunded, James stated smoothly. The owner's decision is final. And Eleanor, my video concluded, remember how you said luxury resorts can be overwhelming for someone of your background. I smiled. Let's put that to the test. During your stay, you'll be working as a server at the beach bar. Think of it as a hands-on lesson about respecting people, regardless of their job. Eleanor's face twisted in fury. I will not. Do you know who I am? Yes, James said evenly. You're the mother-in-law of our owner, who has left clear instructions. You may refuse, but the next flight off the island isn't for 3 days. What followed was pure chaos. Eleanor threatened lawsuits, demanded her phone, which conveniently had no signal, and even tried to book a private helicopter, all denied under my orders. For 2 weeks, the formidable Elanor Anderson served drinks to her own family, decked out in the standard staff uniform she had so often mocked. Each time she handed someone a cocktail, her server badge, bearing her name, shimmered under the sun. But this isn't just a story about revenge. On the final day, I arrived on the island. Eleanor was behind the bar, designer clothes replaced by the simple staff uniform, her pristine appearance wilting in the tropical heat. Enjoying yourself? I asked, settling onto a bar stool. She looked at me, exhaustion replacing anger. Why did you do all this? Because you needed to understand that a person's worth isn't measured by background or bank balance, I replied. Every person who served your drinks, cleaned your rooms, or prepared your meals deserves respect. Tears welled in her eyes. I never thought of it that way. I know, I said gently. And that was exactly the problem. From that moment on, Elanor Anderson changed. Experiencing life from someone else's perspective transformed her entirely. She started a foundation offering scholarships to service industry workers, and she finally learned to treat everyone with dignity, no matter their job or social status. Now, our family gatherings are completely different. Eleanor talks to servers about their dreams, remembers their names, and engages with genuine interest. Last Christmas, she even insisted on serving the dinner herself, joking that it keeps her grounded. The Royal Pearl Resort is still mine, but we've implemented a unique program where privileged guests can spend a day working in service roles. Eleanor helps run it, sharing her story as a cautionary tale about pride and prejudice. David and I still enjoy our morning coffee at the same shop where we met. Sometimes, Elanor joins us, chatting warmly with the baristas she once dismissed. She's learned that true character isn't shown in how you treat your equals, it's in how you treat those you once looked down on. Last week, she surprised me with a handmade photo album from that unforgettable island vacation. On the final page, she wrote, "Thank you for teaching me that the best view of life comes from stepping off your high horse." I keep that album in my office at the resort as a reminder. Sometimes the greatest luxury isn't about money, villas, or private jets, it's about recognizing the value in every human being. And Elanor? She still works one shift a month at the beach bar. She says it keeps her humble.